Hello YouTube, I'm back with the next My Little Pony review, and today I'm reviewing the Duchess from the Princess and the Ponies episode. This was a short episode that was, it was only 10 minutes. There was only one story part to this. This was where the ponies get invited to the Palace de Branfor, which is we don't know a whole lot about it because it doesn't appear after this or before this, but we know it is not under the right kind of power here, because the Duchess proves to be a sinister being who's basically trying to make sure that she rules over the palace, and therefore what she says goes versus what should have been there, what had been there before. Because we find out, not only, she's cruel in a lot of ways. Not only is she locking people down in the dungeon, because yes, this is a palace, so it has a dungeon in there. It's got, there's Suzette, I think, was the only one that was in there. She was, at the beginning of the episode, she's seen, kind of someone the ponies encountered, the ones that get invited, that is. There's Heartthrob ends up going, and a couple of the baby ponies that are going. In fact, they're required to go. The baby ponies are apparently required to go, which is probably a good thing. They would have been gone along for the ride anyway, just because they don't have anyone to attend to, unless they can get someone to babysit. We've already seen how that goes in earlier episodes anyway, but in all fairness, Duchess is just outright cruel. She's picky around as a whole, and then she gets absolutely, insane. She ends up basically giving the baby ponies away as pets. She doesn't get away with it, but she definitely has attempted to. She has them in shackles, and her daughter is gonna get. That just goes to show you how bad she is, and this is bad not just in the sense of being a villain. She's just awful, a bad role model as well. Her daughter will probably grow up maybe thinking that's okay, and she's going to go ahead and attempt it herself. But luckily, the Duchess ends up going back to her original job later, which obviously was much less glamorous than what she had before, while she was upstairs and kind of having her way, making sure everything stays hush hush, because she wants to rule the castle and not have anybody find out what's going on. But luckily, the ponies intervene and eventually succeed in not only finding Philip de Branfor, who was the nephew of the Duchess, or she was related in some sense, and also I think has some sort of friendship with Suzette, who I think was looking for him, and I think obviously he was looking for her, but he was down in the dungeon, basically locked up. I think because he knew more about the castle and probably what was going on than the Duchess wanted. Because the Duchess decided to play off and was like, oh, you're seeing things, stuff like that. But it's good to know that didn't work out the way the Duchess had planned, because it got pretty dark. The writers could have easily made this a two-parter, but the Duchess gets foiled basically almost immediately after the ponies that are actually there see what's going on with their siblings. Their siblings are basically being taken away, or about to be taken away, for who knows what kind of cruelty. Luckily, I'm sure the writers probably would have left that off screen. But given that they were in shackles, there's no telling. They would not be having a good time. It would be probably the worst time for them in their life. One could literally say that's probably in their life, even though they were only born 1 or 2 years prior. That's just how bad the Duchess ends up being. Not a character you want to, using as a role model, obviously, but I suppose she ends up making what would otherwise be a relatively dull storyline into something a little more interesting, even if it gets rather dark towards the end. But then G1 was back when there really weren't a whole lot of boundaries in terms of what cartoons you could do. Nowadays, they'd probably have some sort of lawsuit, or there'd be outrage somewhere. There would have to be a lot of stuff done. They'd probably have to change the story around just so it was less dark. I'm not sure how they would do that. That would probably take the shackles off, maybe turn them into leashes or something like that. But still, even that's arguably still a form of animal cruelty. So I'm sure there'd be problems amongst that today, probably more so than there probably would have been elsewhere, even if laws had been in place. Just given the fact we've just gotten dumber over the years. But yeah, it's 10 minutes long, so I'd probably still recommend it anyway. You get to see a different part of Ponyland, as it was called back then. You get to see, what their life would have been like, under bit of royalty, how they'd react to it, what happens when there's someone who's clearly been tearing down the normal way of life for this palace. You could see people that were normally not present. You could see, I think, a couple more. I think there are more humans in this than there are normally, because let's face it, it's mostly about ponies. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the show. You're not expecting any humans. That's probably partly why they made this little 10-minute episode here. It was just to add some more humans into the mix. But it certainly has this interesting. You don't know what's going to happen until it actually happens, unless you've honestly seen this. But I think to some extent you wouldn't. This is a lot darker than you would have ever expected, especially nowadays where a lot of stuff would be censored. So yeah, that's my review on the Dutchess from the Prince and the Ponies. Thanks for watching.